like HCl in stomach, then it may react with it and cause harm to the internal body organs.
No. Actually, no, capsule endoscopy means no, it is not the normal capsule which you take in the medicine. In the normal capsule, no, it will dissolve and it will be in the stomach. But this capsule endoscopy uses non-corrosive and sterilized materials. Okay? All those materials are non-corrosive and sterile materials. So there is no chance of anything which is being destroyed or anything which can cause harmful effect. No, in fact, no, during normal endoscopy, the doctors used to put an endoscopic camera in through your mouth only. That they sterilize it and they use it. Similarly, in capsule endoscopy, it will not be destroyed by stomach acid or something because it is anti-corrosive.
Sir, the next question is super paramagnetism confined to nanomagnetic particles?
Definitely yes, because as I have already told you, superparamagnetic nanoparticles are the fluctuation in the magnetic moment. Fluctuation in the magnetic moment. When can there be fluctuation in the magnetic moment? Only if the material is magnetic. So if your material is magnetic, then only you will have a magnetic magnetization. So that can fluctuate when you reduce the size of the nanoparticle.
Sir, what is the role of MNPs in Neuralink and Hyperloop projects by Tesla?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
What is the role of MNPs?
Magnetic nanoparticles, yes.
In a Neuralink and Hyperloop projects by Tesla.
Okay. See, similar to maglev. So if you are having high speed transport, the problem is only with the friction. Okay, in the magnetic levitation system, what you have is the train and the track, they are not in contact. So if the train and the trail wheel and the track, they are in contact, then there will be friction. So if they are not in contact, then that friction will be avoided. But still, there is the air friction, isn't it? So if you are going at a very fast speed, now if you are having a high speed system, then the nose should be as pointed as possible. That is what happens in a bullet train. Your nose will be pointed. In a car, the nose will be pointed. That is not. You should not imagine our railways, because that is not high speed transport system. But a maglev system or a bullet train, that will have a pointed nose. So meaning your air contact will be minimized. So air friction has to be reduced. So what they do in Hyperloop is they evacuate the tube. So then the air is sucked out. So there will be vacuum, semi-vacuum. So there will be air friction which is reduced. So the next thing is when you are having a magnet which is there and the train is levitated using the magnet, north will repel. The same technology is used. So levitation, if it is there, then your train can move faster. That is the concept behind the Hyperloop technology. So if you are having a strong permanent magnet, then you can use it for Hyperloop. That's all.
If there are any more questions, you can please use the chat window to type your questions, please. So next question is, what is the best MNP that you suggest for all medical, mechanical and other aspects?
Okay, so if it is biocompatibility point of view, as of now, magnetite is best, biocompatibility for biomedical application. For mechanical applications, you need stability. Okay, for biocompatibility applications, you can use magnetite. For mechanical applications, you can use even highly magnetic cobalt sort of nanoparticles. Okay, but the suggested application, future application will rely on highly magnetic nanoparticles, such as which I have shown, core shell. a strong magnetic iron or iron cobalt, highly magnetic iron or iron cobalt, with a shell which is biocompatible or corrosion resistant. So that will be the future. So you can, right now, if you are starting with the initial research, you can use magnetite. But if you are in the advanced research stage, then you can go for core shell nanopore, which is iron or iron oxide core shell.
Any more questions from the participants? Yes, please.
The research, no, I told you, there are tremendous opportunities. No, for in the case of biomedical applications, you can use it for like as I have shown you. Even in the case of magnetic nanoparticle hyperthermia, we need to optimize a lot of properties. So optimization is required. In addition to the size, size distribution, then biocompatibility, then dipolar interaction strength. So in that area, you can characterize the physics point of view. You can characterize nanoparticles and its magnetic properties, or you can also use some new magnetic materials such as iron oxide core shell, iron cobalt iron oxide core shell, or nickel oxide core shell. So these are all there are a lot of research possibilities with these existing materials which are highly magnetic but made in the nanoform, and you can check the stability. You can use it for detoxification applications, like as I told you, capture efficiency that you can do in your own college laboratory environment or even in your house. All you need is a simple motor arrangement, and you need a magnet, and then you can prepare the nanoparticles, or you can buy it from somewhere and use the nanoparticles for research work in the area of environmental remediation or toxicity clearance. Then any like toxic elements like lead, mercury. So those things can be removed using magnetic nanoparticles. So there are a lot of opportunities with the existing infrastructure. Okay, in the present environment, even when you are locked in COVID.
Sir, there are few more questions like opportunities for biotechnology students, electronics field, then chemical engineering fields, sir.
Of course, no, there are a lot of opportunities. In fact, we don't get people. That is the problem. Okay? We don't get people who understand the basics. Okay? So we means the top end researchers. No, I don't mean to say I. Okay, so I mean to say like a person who is in the industry or who is in the research environment in the United States or some Western countries. They look for people who are highly skilled. So we need to understand the basics. So there are a lot of problems because this is an interdisciplinary topic. So a physics person, a student who is a physics student, he may be interested in astronomy. He may be interested in cosmology. He may be interested in basic physics, and he may not be interested in biomedicine. A biomedical person, he may be interested in core biomedicine, but he may not be interested in the physics behind it. I don't want equations, things like that. A chemistry person, he don't want an application, okay, which is partly physics and partly biology. So then the difficulty comes, how to merge these disciplines, how to make these people come together. So there are difficulties. But if you understand the basics and if you have some, there are a lot of application environment. So you can choose one application and you can work in the problem which is of interest to you. A physics person can study the superparamagnetic property of core shell structures. A biology person can study the biocompatibility of the nanoparticle and the biocompatibility of the nanoparticle when it is surface modified, and the biocompatibility when it is used in hypothermia. They can use it for like no toxicology studies. So likewise, they can use a chemical engineer, chemical person. He can prepare the nanoparticles. We need core shell nanoparticles with the different core shell sizes. So a chemical person, he can adapt a chemical method and they can produce to a very large scale. So we need large scale up. Then only we can use it for applications. Industries know, you can see like no, immediately when there is a surge in the demand, we need lot of gloves, lot of masks. So we need lot of particles if you want to use it for applications. Then a chemical engineer can prepare the nanoparticle and see that no, you can scale it up. So likewise, no, there are a lot of opportunities in the each and every disciplines. So it is tremendous. So you have to understand only in what direction we have to go, what to choose. That's all.
Sir, and next question is, how is the magnetic nanoparticles stored? In which medium it is stored?
Okay, that's a very good question. So if you are having a magnetite, then it is quite stable. There may be a slight degradation, but which is not of much concern. But if you are using a core shell nanoparticle, that is a challenge. You are having iron oxide or iron cobalt iron oxide. You may measure the magnetic magnetization, but of course, no, our magnetic nanoparticles they are quite stable for around 6 months, which is when stored in methanol. Okay, and if you store it in ethylene glycol or some oil medium, you can use it up to like 1 year. So, but thing is like you cannot store it for a long period. But that is also okay, because if you are using a life-saving drug or if you are using it in medical application, then even 1 month storage is quite okay. You can see like the vaccines, you have to store it very very super cool temperature, and people do that carefully. So when there is a demand and when there is a requirement, we can do it. And of course, the oxides like Fe3O4, they are quite stable. But iron oxide or the core shell nanostructures, their stability is poor. But you can store it in a medium and use it up to like 6 months or so.
Sir, is there any scientific report that magnetic forces or material will stimulate stem cells into specific type of cells?
No, actually, as for my knowledge is concerned, no, there are no reports, but there are reports of like magnetoactive bacteria. Okay, so bacteria, they can produce magnetite, and you see like the birds or some of the birds, they have magnetite in their body. They are used for navigational purpose. So biology, like navigational purpose, naturally there are magnetic nanoparticles. Okay, and bacteria, they produce magnetite nanoparticles. But as far as the stem cell research is concerned, there are, as far as my knowledge is concerned, there are not any reports, because your body or most of the parts of the plants, they are not magnetic. Okay, so they are either diamagnetic, or if at all some ions are there, such as Fe ions, ionic form, they are paramagnetic, which is of not much use. So they cannot interact in a better way to give rise to oriented stem cells or cell growth.
And sir, how to synthesize magnetic nanoparticles using biodegradable polymer?
Sorry, I don't have that idea about biodegradable.
And next question is scope of magnetic nanoparticles in metallurgy.
The scope means like as I have told you, like if you are seeing like iron cobalt nanoparticles, I will just show here. I will just concentrate on the metallurgical point of view of iron cobalt. Okay. So if you take the iron cobalt alloy, the iron cobalt alloy exhibits like two forms. It is a body-centered cubic structure, and in the body-centered cubic structure, iron cobalt has a disordered structure as well as an ordered structure. So I have put here now in slide number 41, 5 dots. So in this 5 dots, now each dot represents an atom. So if it is an ordered, let's say the center body centered atom is iron and the corners are cobalt, let us assume in the ordered form. And in the disordered form, it can be random. The iron and cobalt can be anywhere. So the disordered iron cobalt alloy, it is ductile. Okay. The ordered iron cobalt alloy, it is brittle. So now the ductile and the brittle nature of the alloys are determined by the structure of the alloys. So using Moss-Boyer spectroscopy, we can find whether the iron cobalt alloy is ordered or disordered. The magnetic properties of ordered and disordered are also different. So likewise, no, in the metallurgical point of view, when you are having a material, we can find the strength and other magnetic properties, structural correlation like this. And when you make it in the nano form, whether this structure, they are stable, whether this structure are transforming to a different type. So those things can be also studied. That is only one example, but there are a lot of other opportunities which are available from the metallurgical point of view.
Sir, what are the applications of MNPs in material examinations?
Material examination means like, no, I don't get what you mean by material examination. Examination in the area of, let's say, like actually, no, if you are saying like, no, the biomedical examination, and I think, no, I have already demonstrated you one example of in MRI contrast agent, you can use it for examining the biomedical imaging. Okay. In the case of material behavior examination, non-destructive testing of materials, it can be undertaken. Okay. But thing is, no, that need not be nano alone. It can be even micron size, which can be used in the examination, non-destructive examination of materials using magnetic particle testing. Okay. And even there are other techniques which are available where they can use magnetic nanoparticles, okay, such as seeing any early damages, okay, from the break in the domains. That is also
Sir, there are two, three more questions.
yes.
How to measure the absorbance of an immobilized enzyme onto magnetic nanoparticles for the purpose of measuring its activity?
Okay, so that one can be done using AC susceptibility measurements. So AC susceptibility measurements can do that. So that is, you have absorption with frequency. So using AC susceptibility. Another method is like, you can test the ferromagnetic resonance. So that is also possible. So likewise, there are spectroscopic examination methods are also available. The concept behind them is to change the frequency and measure it. That's all.
Sir, magnetic nanoparticle in superconductor.
Yeah, so actually, the question is interesting because you want to know whether magnetic nanoparticle is related to superconductivity. In fact, superconductivity is destroyed by magnetism. So you need a diamagnetism for superconductivity. So if you put some magnetic nanoparticle in a superconductor, that will destroy the superconductivity, because superconductivity, if you see, that is due to Cooper pairs. Cooper pairs will show diamagnetism. So diamagnetism means the magnetic moment will be, magnetization will be zero. Okay, it will be cancelled. So magnetic nanoparticles, it will not be superconductive. But maybe in the future, if there are some new concepts which are evolving, it may be possible, because superconductivity is one area where people don't understand much of physics, especially in high TC superconductivity.
What are the MNPs used in Perseverance rover?
No, actually, no. In the rovers, no, they are not using magnetic nanoparticles. But especially, no, if you see Mars, okay, Mars is red, so that is due to iron oxide. So when they put a Mossbauer spectrometer in the rover, previous rovers, I am talking about the previous Mars rover. So when they put the Mossbauer spectrometer and examined the surface of the Mars, they have seen that no, they are having small iron oxide. So nanoparticles are naturally produced in Mars, which is on the surface. So surface of Mars is covered with the iron oxide nanoparticles, which can be actually you can easily observe using Mossbauer spectrometer. And if you want a nanoparticle to be sitting in the rover, then you can use it like cleaning nano layer, which where no, if you have a coating, nano coating, no, the surface will be self clean, so that can be used.
Can nanomaterials be used in armor and military vests?
Definitely. So we can use the magnetic nanoparticle, but thing is, no, when you have a magnetic nanoparticle, dangers are also associated with it. Like, no, your enemy may utilize your magnetic nanoparticles, magnetic signal, and they may also produce some harmful effect. For example, like no mine detection, or some other areas where you can use magnetic nanoparticles. And also, like no, if you want to have a strong magnet, then you can use a nano composite. Okay, nano material which is made in the form of composite. So combine two materials and produce strong magnets. So that can be done.
Are MNPs capable of releasing radiations when used in a bulk amounts?
No. Actually, no. These are all no non-radioactive. So radioactive materials, no, they may emanate from the nucleus. Okay? So whatever properties, no, we are studying, they are related to the electrons which are moving in the neutral atom. So they are not radioactive.
Sir, and the final question, what is the main advantage of using MNPs in polymeric solar cells?
Magnetic, I don't think no you want to use a magnetic nanoparticle in a polymeric solar cell. But if you want, if at all, if you want to use it, then you can use it for adhesiveness. That is no stick to some region. Because no, if you want to use a nut and bolt, no, then it will be a tedious task. So instead of that, no, if you have magnetic nanoparticles, then you can use it for like no easy removal, easy taking. Apart from that, no, there is no such no direct photocatalytic or photoactivity relationship.
Sir, and the final question once again, are MNPs eco-friendly?
No, any nanoparticle or any material, you cannot say 100% it is eco-friendly. But no, actually, no, if you have to like weigh the advantages and disadvantages. So if you are going to die from a cancer, or if you are going to die from some problem, then little bit of less harmful effect. So 50%, no, you are already in a harmful state, means no 1% additional harm which can remove 49% harmful effect. That is not a problem. Okay. So similarly, no, your nanoparticle cannot be like no 100% no harmless. So there will be harmful effect. But compared to the application, what application you are choosing, so that will save you. So in that sense, no, it is advantageous.
Okay, sir. I think with this we will stop the questions. Participants, in case if you have any further questions, you can directly get it clarified from the resource persons. And sir, on behalf of the Rajiv Gandhi National Institute of Youth Development, on behalf of NIT Jalandhar, NIT Trichy, and on behalf of the Center for Special Center for Nanosciences, JNU, Seagate, and Boston Scientific, we would like to profusely thank you for your very valuable time and for your expert inputs on the subject. We do hope and trust that all the students have found your session very, very interesting. And so many questions have been addressed by you. So we and the feedback that we see on the chat box is highly encouraging. That most of the students have found it very useful and very informative. So we thank you very much for your very valuable insights on the topic, and we look forward to your continued support and patronage in our future endeavors also, sir.
I thank you and the participants again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Dear participants, for your kind attention, we will close this session for today, and tomorrow morning we will commence our session from 10 a.m. And therefore, we request all the participants to log in at least 10 minutes ahead of the commencement of the session. So therefore, by around 9:45 to 9:50 a.m., we expect all the participants to join the online platform, so that 10 o'clock we have the session. And tomorrow morning we have 3 sessions, 2 during the forenoon and 1 during the afternoon session. So from 10 a.m. to 11:15 a.m., 11:15 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. So these are the 3 sessions slated for tomorrow, and already the details have been sent to you on your email. The program schedule and the links have been sent to you on your email. So we request all the participants to kindly make it sure to be available by 9:50 at least tomorrow morning. Till then, thank you. Have a good day.